Good day, sports fans, and welcome to lecture number 2 of Cricket South Africa's Level 1 umpiring course, brought to you by Western Province Cricket Umpires Association. My name is Tom Mokorosi, and as usual, my batting partner for today is Abdullah Steenkamp. The format of tonight's lecture is as follows. I will take you through laws 6, 7, and 8, and then Abdullah will take us through laws 9, 10, and 11. Remember that when we are presenting, you are welcome to type into the chat box any questions you might have that are related to the content that we present. After we have presented our laws for today, we will go into the chat box and we will answer any questions that have been posed while we were presenting. If there are further questions to be posed, then you will do so by putting up your virtual hand, and we will take live questions for live answers at the end of the meeting. You do not have to stick around for over the time limit that we have allocated for the lecture, which is 2 hours. You can merely put your question in the chat box and we will answer it. You can watch a recording of this lecture, which will be posted on our YouTube channel by tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. South African time. For those of you who still have not received emails from me, please put your email into the chat box. And please note that every email that I send out, even if it's a lecture reminder, it does have the course material and logistics in the bottom half of that email. So even though the subject might say level 3, lecture 1 recording and lecture 2 reminder, it still does have the course material in there. Please make a note of the expiry date of the WeTransfer link. Download the course material before the expiry date of that WeTransfer link. So on to today's course content. We are looking at the pitch. What is the area of the pitch? A lot of you play cricket, watch cricket, coach cricket, maybe umpire already. You should all know that the pitch is a rectangular area of the ground, and I'm not going to use yards and feet because on our tape measures in South Africa, we've got centimeters and meters. The pitch is 20.12 meters in length from bowling crease to bowling crease, from the one set of stumps to the other set of stumps, and 3.05 meters in width. Often people refer to 22 yards, and in the exam, true or false or multiple choice questions, you will get yards and meters to choose from. So if you want to learn the yards and the feet, that's fine, but just have a look at the tape measures available to you in your country. What measurements are there? Learn those measurements for the Cricket South Africa Level 1 exam. There's a graphic representation of the measurements, 20.12 meters in length and 3.05 meters in width. Who selects and prepares a playing pitch? Before the match, the ground authority shall be responsible for the selection and preparation of the pitch. During the match, the umpire shall control the use and the maintenance of the playing strip. Can a pitch be changed during a match? Law tells us that the pitch shall not be changed during the match unless the umpires decide that the pitch is dangerous or unreasonable for play to continue on it, And then only with the consent of both captains can the four of us come together, two umpires, two captains, and agree to change the pitch. It's not a decision that can be made only by the umpires. The umpires will make the decision to say pitch A that we're playing on is not fit for play, so we are abandoning this game. But then we can ask the captains if they would like to move to the next strip or even the field next door to play on another pitch. What is the length of pitches in junior cricket? There is no specific guideline from the laws of cricket. The laws simply say that the governing body for cricket in the country concerned shall determine the length of the pitch for junior cricket. Here in South Africa, in 11 years or younger, we have what's called mini cricket, and I don't know if there's a specific measurement for the length of a mini cricket pitch, but in hardball competitions, Cape Premier League, under 11, under 13, under 15, they use full length 20.12 meter creases. So it really just depends on the governing body of that particular tournament or match that you're officiating in, whether they're going to reduce the length of the pitch for junior cricket or not. Moving swiftly along to Law 7, the creases. And I will tell you up front that there are 10 marks out of the 69 in the Cricket South Africa Level 1 exam based on the creases. We've all looked and seen and played with creases, but do we know all the names? Do we know all the measurements? Let's have a look-see. So this is a field in Potchefstroom in South Africa, the home ground of the Northwest Dragons, who are a professional team in Cricket South Africa's Division 1 competitions. You will see that the creases are very neatly drawn out, precisely measured. There are a lot of lines, some of which we'll be learning about today and others that we won't be learning about today. So I'll first talk about those measurements and lines that we will not be covering in the Cricket South Africa Level 1 course. We have limited overs matches wide guidelines painted here as I'm showing with my cursor. Those are not covered in the laws of cricket because the wide guidelines are playing conditions which are in limited overs cricket tournaments around the world. Remember that the Cricket South Africa Level 1, Level 2, and Level 3 course and exams are based on the laws of cricket. And the laws of cricket are generally in line with test match playing conditions. And for those of you who are busy watching West Indies against Pakistan, the test match, you will notice that there are no offside wide guidelines. Okay, so in the laws of cricket, you will not see any wide guidelines. Why? Because those are not part of the multiple day playing conditions that we are used to in test match cricket. The laws of cricket are similar to the playing conditions for test match cricket. So you will not see wide guidelines. We don't need to know the measurements. When you have passed your exam and start umpiring, then you will get the playing conditions for the matches and the tournaments in the area that you will be officiating in, and you will learn the measurements for the wide guidelines. These two lines are for the protected area where bowlers are not allowed to be inside in their follow through. We will learn about the protected area in level 3. Okay, so we're not worried about the protected area lines and the wide guideline lines. We are worried about this line. We are worried about these two lines on the side, and we are worried about the line where the stumps are put into the ground. So what are those lines called and what are their measurements? So we'll start with the longest of the 4 lines. And that one is generally where the batters stand. Normally, a normal stance, you would have 1 foot inside this crease and 1 foot outside of this crease as a batter. Of course, you don't have to stand in a specific position as a striker, but generally across the world, that is the norm. So what is the name of this particular crease? It is the popping crease. Okay, we will come to the measurements after learning the names of the creases. Next, I will go to the crease where the stumps are put into the ground. Law used to use the word pitched, but they do not use that law any longer in the 2026 updated laws of cricket. They speak about the stumps being put into the ground. Which line are they put into the ground, or which crease are they put into the ground? They are put into the ground in the bowling crease. And what you'll notice here is that they are not put into the middle of the bowling crease. Say the bowling crease thickness is 2.5 centimeters, an inch. The stumps will not be placed into the middle of that line, of that crease, of that 2.5 centimeter thick crease line. They are placed in such a way that they cut the back edge of the crease line in half. Okay, so you can see depicted in this graphic the stumps, the black circles on the bowling crease are where a grounds person would dig into the bowling crease. The back edge of the bowling crease is where the stumps are put into the ground. Okay, so that's the bowling crease where the stumps are put into the ground, and then the return creases are the 2 creases on each side of the stumps. Okay, so we've learned the names. Now we need to learn the measurements of these 3 creases, or 4 creases if you count the return creases twice. So we'll go back to, in fact, I'm going to start with the most important measurement in my mind, which I call the no ball measurement. This is the measurement from the bowling crease to the popping crease. And why I say this is the most important measurement is because if this measurement is too long, then the bowlers are never going to bowl a no ball, or at least you wouldn't think they would. If this crease or this measurement is too short, then you will find in a particular match that the bowlers are bowling more no balls than they normally would do because they are overstepping the popping crease. We will come to no balls, foot faults in Law 21, but I'm sure you're all aware that if a bowler oversteps the popping crease in their bowling action, that would be a no ball. So this measurement is critical to get correct. And what you'll notice with the arrows is that the measurement is from the back edge of the bowling crease to the back edge of the popping crease. And the measurement is exactly 1.22 meters. So that's 1 meter and 22 centimeters. Okay, for those of you who use feet, it's around 4 feet measurement. So that's the first measurement we're going to learn this evening. The measurement from the back edge of the bowling crease to the back edge of the popping crease is 1.22 meters. The next measurement I want us to learn is the minimum measurement of the return creases. That measurement is 2.44 meters. And again, you will see that the measurement starts on the inside edge of the popping crease. Okay, so this popping crease can be 1 centimeter thick, it can be 2 centimeters thick, it can be 5 centimeters thick. That would look a bit ridiculous, but there's no way in the law book that it determines how thick the measurement of any line should be. And what you will learn on this graphic is that all the measurements are from the edge of the line closest to the stumps. So the inside edge of the bowling crease is closest to the stumps because remember I told you that is where we put the stumps in, the back edge of the bowling crease. So the back edge of the popping crease is closest to the stumps, so that's where our measurements will always start. So that measurement from the back edge of the popping crease towards the boundary, going towards the bowler's end umpire, is a minimum of 2.44 meters. And when they say minimum, it means that if a ground staff wanted to, they could paint this or both return creases all the way to the boundary. I've never seen that happen, but nothing in law stops a ground staff from painting a return crease from the popping crease all the way down to the boundary. So it needs to be a minimum of 2.44 meters. Okay, the third measurement that I want us to learn is the measurement of the popping crease. And again, this is a minimum of 3.66 meters. When we used to have runners back in the day, runners are still in the law book. You will find out in law 26, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, law 24, actually. Runners are still in the law book, but they are not allowed in international professional cricket. They're not allowed in domestic professional cricket in South Africa and most other test playing nations, if not all. And they're not even allowed in Premier League club cricket in Western Province Cricket Umpires Association. However, veterans cricket still allows runners in most competitions around the world. So we still need to know that runners are allowed in some matches. And those of you who know how runners work in cricket, they run as far as next to the striker's end umpire. So that is very, very far out. So that line might need to be extended if you are going to have a match where you have runners or a runner, and you need to make sure then that as an umpire, the popping crease is extended all the way to where a runner would run so that you are able to correctly judge a run out. So that measurement is a minimum of 3.66 meters. The last measurement that we need to learn is the length or the width of the bowling crease. So from the inside edge of the one return crease to the inside edge of the other return crease is a minimum of 2.64 meters. Okay. And again, why is it the inside edge of the return creases? It's because the inside edge of the return creases are the edge closest to the stumps. Okay. So remember, when you are measuring with a measuring tape, always measure from the edge of a crease that is closest to the stumps. And a lot of ground staff around, let's say Cape Town, where I umpire club cricket, they sometimes measure to the wrong side of a line. So you'll find that their measurements are out by the thickness of the line. So if, for example, the measurement of 1.22 meters is from the back edge of the bowling crease to the front edge of the popping crease, then that means that this measurement would be too short by the thickness of the popping crease. Okay, so that's a bit of a learning curve that we can help the ground staff with, especially inexperienced ground staff. And you don't have to make a big fuss about it. It's not a material error that's going to change the outcome of a match. You simply need to inform both captains as well as the ground staff that please next week fix it so that all your measurements are from the inside edge of the crease closest, or the edge of the crease closest to the stumps. Okay, so we've learned 4 measurements this evening. How do you remember those measurements? So remember, I told you that for me, the most important measurement is the no ball measurement from the back edge of the bowling crease to the back edge of the popping crease is 1.22 meters. If you multiply 1.22 by 2, you get 2.44 meters, which is the minimum measurement of the return creases. Okay. If you multiply 1.22 by 3, you get 3.66 meters, which is the minimum measurement of the popping crease. So by remembering only one measurement, which for me is the most important measurement, 1.22 meters, you will remember, multiplied by 2, you will get 2.44. Multiplied by 3, you will get 3.66. Then you will just have to remember the odd one out, let's call it that. The width of the bowling crease from the inside edge of one return crease to the inside edge of the other return crease is 2.64 meters. So for the 3 names of the creases and the 4 measurements of the creases, that is 10 marks that I am letting you know are in the Cricket South Africa Level 1 exam. Let's go over it one last time. The side creases are called the return crease. The crease on which the stumps are put in is called the bowling crease. The crease at which the batters normally stand is called the popping crease. Measurement from the back edge of the bowling crease to the back edge of the popping crease is 1.22 meters. The measurement of the return crease is a minimum of 2.44 meters. Measurement of the popping crease is a minimum of 3.66 meters. And the measurement of the bowling crease is 2.64 meters. Last law that I'm covering before I hand over to Abdullah is law 8, the wickets. The wickets, as you can see, are 3 stumps with the bails on top of the stumps in the grooves. Collectively, they are known as the wickets. Measurements: 71.12 centimeters from the base of the stumps, and we're not including the part of the stumps that are beneath the ground or inside the ground. They go to the top of the stumps where the bails sit on. The width of a perfectly, I want to use the word pitched, but the laws of cricket don't use the word pitched anymore. Perfectly placed set of wickets. The width from the outside of the off stump to the outside of the leg stump is 22.86 centimeters. Typically, we don't have to measure in club cricket a set of stumps because manufacturers know the size of stumps. I don't think they make smaller sets of stumps for junior cricket, so we take the size of the stumps as standard, and I've only had to measure the size of stumps when I was a 4th umpire for a women's international series between South Africa and Sri Lanka. And one of the duties of the 4th umpire in international matches is to measure the stumps to make sure that they are put into the ground correctly, because if they are not put into the ground correctly and they are wider than 22.86 centimeters, you run the risk of a ball going through middle stump and off stump without hitting the stumps and taking a bail or both bails off. So please make sure that your stumps, not too worried about the height because they will always be standard, but make sure that they are not too wide. And what us umpires do is before a match, we take a cricket ball and we make sure that when the stumps are in the ground, a cricket ball cannot fit in between the 2 gaps below the bails. Long time ago, watching a test match between South Africa and Pakistan, Pat Simcox, the South African spinner, famously got bowled, but the ball did not dislodge the bails. Why? Because it went between middle stump and off stump, and the 2 stumps were too wide apart, and the ball went straight through them. So Patrick Simcox was not out, because we will learn later in the laws that the wicket is fairly broken when one or both bails are completely removed from the top of the stumps. And because the ball just flicked one of the stumps but went straight through that gap, the bails stayed on top of the stumps, so he was not out for that delivery. Let's learn a little bit about the bails. When in position on top of the stumps, the bails shall not project more than 1.27 centimeters above the stumps. These are really fine details that we don't need to measure. We don't need to know for level 1, but cricket is a precisely measured game, so it is good to know. The bails shall fit between the stumps without forcing them out of the vertical. So if you get to a ground and the stumps are in the ground and the bails do not fit comfortably on top of the stumps, then you know that the stumps are not positioned properly, because the bails are sized in such a way with a long spigot on the outside and a small spigot on the inside that they should sit comfortably as pictured here without being outside of the stumps and not too far inside of the stumps. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see a picture of Mark Boucher, former South African wicketkeeper, in a warm-up match against a county side. He was standing up to the stumps and was not wearing a helmet. Bowler bowled the ball, was a spin bowler, and clean bowled the striker. The ball ricocheted from the stumps and the bails. One of them was sent flying into Mark Boucher's left eye. And if you look closely, you can see already that it had already left a mark on his eye. And that was a career-ending injury for Mark Boucher. So the International Cricket Council, after that incident, and the lawmakers, Marylebone Cricket Club, came together and came up with a device that aims at protecting players by limiting the distance that a bail can travel off the top of the stumps. But this must be subject to the approval of the governing body for the match and the ground authority where that match is being played. So effectively, all it is a string tied from the top of the off stump and the top of the leg stump, and on the other end of that string is the one end of a bail, the long spigot, maybe 30 centimeters, just to make sure that if the bail flies, it can only fly a maximum of 30 centimeters. I've never seen those in use myself. What the International Cricket Council has brought into playing conditions around the world nowadays is if a wicketkeeper stands up to the stumps, then they need to wear a helmet. It is mandatory to wear a helmet with a grill to ensure that a bail does not get through and hit the eye of a wicketkeeper. Law talks about dispensing with bails, and that always is going to happen if you have gale force winds at a ground. If the bails keep falling off and keep falling off and keep falling off, we will get too tired to replace them every 2 minutes. So what do we do, and what does that change in terms of the laws of cricket that we apply for when the wicket is fairly put down? I'm going to play a video which is Abdullah at a level 1 course way back, I think in 2019 at Somerset West Cricket Club. The volume is not great, I must say. Please listen carefully. Maybe this is a test of your umpiring skills. You need to have good hearing as an umpire. And I will just summarize it at the end for those of you who are not able to hear Abdullah well in this video. But he explains how the laws change when you are forced to play without bails in a windy environment.
Well, around about which kept on the bells kept on going, and I'm very old now, and I said now it's leave the bells, which is wasting too much time continuously picking up the bells. So now we decided to remove the bells, and usually when you decide to remove the bells, there's only one reason: the wind keeps on blowing. And when you do decide to remove the bells from the stumps, you need to remove it from both ends. You cannot have a game where you say, I'm only removing the bells from this end because this is where it keeps on falling off. Unfortunately not. And you're also quite clear on this. You do decide to remove the bells because the wind blows off. You need to remove it from both ends. So now we've decided to remove the bells from both ends. So now the law changes. All the law now tells us once you decide to remove the bells, is the ball now just needs to touch any of stumps. So now no need to hit it out the ground, throw it out the ground, do these. Well, people can do it if they want to, but not necessary. The law tells us all that now needs to happen is for the ball to touch the stumps. If now, from an umpiring point of view, you now need to keep an under it. Because remember, the ball just needs to touch the stumps. And it can be difficult. I had arguments already in my umpiring career, kick off the bells. And the fielding side would say, yeah, but I'm trying to kiss the stumps. Batters, obviously, the batters going to say, no, you didn't touch the stumps. What you need to do is you need to go and consult your colleague. Ask your colleague, you really need to stump? Yes or no? If you're not sure, what do you do as umpires? You never goes to the back. You must be 100% sure that either of you saw the ball at least touching the stumps. If not, the benefit.
Okay, so quickly to summarize what Abdullah was saying there, on a windy day, if the bells keep falling off from the top of the stumps, you would be wasting time if you're putting them back on every 2 minutes. So once you decide to take the bells off, you need to take them off from both sets of stumps. And now, remember I told you to put the wicket down fairly to affect a run out or a stumping or out bowled. The stumps need to be, the bail, one or both bails need to be completely removed from the top of the stumps. But now, if you're playing without bails, the ball can just make the slightest bit of contact with any one of the 3 stumps, and that would be considered as the wicket being put down fairly. So the umpires need to be, as Abdullah said, on high alert when you're playing without bails. And that's why it's handy for an umpire to always have a set of heavy bails in his or her back pocket, so that when the light bails that are provided by the club, the home team, when they keep falling off, then no problem. We take the light bails off and we put our heavy bails on, and they can withstand higher pressures of wind without falling. Okay, so that's how we handle dispensing of bails. And The text on this slide just describes what I have talked you through. Very importantly, the use of bales shall be resumed as soon as conditions permit. So you can have a match where it was very windy in the morning and you didn't use bales because they kept falling off, but the wind died down in the afternoon for the second innings of the match. When Team B is batting, you should, according to law, have the bales on whenever you can, whenever conditions permit. Thank you so much, Abdullah. I'm reminding you of the Men's World Cup back in 1996 when Sri Lanka came up with the concept of a pinch hitter who came in at the start and just hit everything as quickly and as hard and as far as they could before Aravinda de Silva came in the middle order and batted long to take the team home. Over to you, Aravinda de Silva.
And Tom, we're covering the laws of cricket, which covers more day cricket, test match cricket. I am playing like a proper opening batter.
Thanks, Dula. Over to you.
Yeah, good evening to you and good evening to the rest of the attendees. I'm covering 3 laws, laws 9, 10, and 11. So kicking off with law number 9. So law number 9 is the preparation and the maintenance of the playing area after the game has started. So before the game, let me use test match South Africa, Zimbabwe. Let's say it starts on Monday at 10 o'clock. So before Monday, 10 o'clock, the curator, together with his or her staff, they will prepare the ground. They will make sure the ground is cut, the outfield is in pristine condition. They will prepare the pitch, they will roll it as long as they can in getting the outfield as well as the pitch ready for the test match. But as soon as the test match starts, 10 o'clock Monday, day 1, the law guides us in exactly how we now need to maintain this playing area. So let's start with the outfield. So game has started. How do we maintain the outfield and the pitch in terms of mowing for the rest of the game? So the law wants both the pitch and the outfield to be mowed on each day that the match is expected to take place. So there will be, on day 1, there will obviously be no mowing of the pitch and outfield because the curator prepared the pitch already. But for day 2 of our test match, day 3, day 4, and day 5, the law tells us the pitch and outfield to be mowed. Why? We need to try to keep the conditions of the outfield and the pitch, the same over the 5 days. Yes, especially the pitch. I do know that the pitch do deteriorate as the test match progress. But in terms of, the grass, and you'll be amazed, and I've seen this with my own eyes. I've been reserve umpire for many a 4-day and a 3-day first class match, where I saw the evening of day 1, and we'll get it to in terms of covering the pitch, that the pitch needs to be covered on the evening of day 1, and then the morning of day 2, those covers needs to then be removed. But you'll be surprised how quickly grass grow overnight, especially under the covers. So if you're just going to leave the pitch and the outfield and don't cut it for 5 days, you can imagine how that pitch and outfield is going to look on day number 5. So try to keep the conditions the same over the 5 days. The law wants the pitch and outfield to be mowed on each day. So when do we mow this pitch and outfield? Let's start with mowing of the pitch. So this is now day 2, day 3, and day 4, and day 5. So mowing of the pitch to be done no later than 30 minutes before play is about to start. So let's say on day 2, play is going to start at 10 o'clock. By 9:30, pitch needs to be mowed. So yes, you can mow the pitch at 9 o'clock, at 10 past 9, at quarter past 9, at 20 past 9, 25 past 9, as long as it's done before 9:30, 30 minutes before play is about to start. And practically in a test match, the fourth umpire will supervise this mowing of the pitch. And mowing of the outfield needs to be done no later than 15 minutes before play is about to start. So if we have a 10 o'clock start on day 2, by 9:45, mowing of that outfield needs to be done. Okay, next, in terms of maintaining the field and the pitch, or maintaining the playing area, the law allows the curator to clear debris from the pitch. What is this debris? This debris is those loose stones that the bowlers, while running in to deliver the ball, batters while running between the wickets, small stones do come loose from the pitch. This is called debris. So now, with these loose stones lying everywhere, the law allows for those debris or small loose stones to be cleared. So when do we clear it? Law guides us. Before the start of each day's play, we are allowed to clear the debris. There's also in terms of timings after mowing, and it needs to be done before rolling, not earlier than 30, not later than 10 minutes before play is about to start. Also allowed to clear those loose stones or debris between innings, and it needs to happen before rolling is to take place. And lastly, the curator can also clear debris from the pitch during all interval for meals, like your lunch interval, like your tea interval. And the fourth umpire in a test match will supervise the clearing of the debris. So now we know when these small stones can be cleared from the pitch. How do we clear the small stones or debris from the pitch? Again, you see text highlighted in green. So this is new and will be effective 1st of October 2026, where the law tells us the curator can now clear debris by any means that he or she deems appropriate, as long as the umpires do not consider that this method that they're using may be detrimental to the surface of the pitch. And if they do consider that it might be detrimental, they can then ask the curator to remove the small stones from the pitch by using their hands. Next, I mentioned earlier that before the game starts, the curator can roll the pitch as long as he or she wants in getting the pitch ready for the test match between South Africa and Zimbabwe. But as soon as the game starts, day 1, game will start at 10 o'clock. Now, in terms of rolling of the pitch, the law now guides us when to roll and how long to roll. Let's first cover how long the rolling is allowed. Not more than 7 minutes. Maximum of 7 minutes of rolling is allowed. So can the curator roll for 5 minutes? Definitely. For 4 minutes? Yes. 6 minutes? Yes. 1 minute? No problem. As long as it's not more than 7 minutes. 8 minutes? Definitely not, because the maximum time for rolling that is allowed after the game has started is 7 minutes. So now we know how long. When is rolling allowed after the game has started? Only 2 instances. First one, before the start of each innings. I'll use the Zimbabwe-South Africa test match as an example. Let's say South Africa wins the toss on day 1 at 9:30 and they decide we're going to have a bat. So South Africa will go bat at 10 o'clock. Zimbabwe then dismiss South Africa, let's say for 200 runs. Now there will be a 10-minute change of innings. Now during this 10-minute change of innings, the law tells us that rolling is now allowed. And this rolling is allowed for not more than 7 minutes. So practically what will happen? Let's use our test match. As soon as South Africa is dismissed, the on-field umpires will ask the captain of Zimbabwe as they walk off the field, Cappy, do you want rolling? If yes, which roller do you want? And I'll get back to the slide because I want to go to the choice of rollers. The law gives the captain of the now batting side the option to choose a roller if there's more than one available. And at most international grounds, you will find 3 rollers available. A big one on the right, on the left bottom is like a medium one, and then top left is a hand roller. So what will practically happen? There will be a 10-minute change of innings. Batting captain of Zimbabwe will be asked, do you want rolling? Which roller and how long? And let's say the captain says, okay, Umpy, I want the medium roller for 5 minutes. The on-field umpires will relay that message to the 4th umpire, who in turn will relay it to the curator, and the 4th umpire will then supervise the rolling between innings. This 5 minutes of rolling using the medium roller. Exactly the same will happen as soon as Zimbabwe is dismissed in their first innings. South Africa will now go bat in their second innings. The same procedure will be followed. We'll ask the captain of South Africa, do you want rolling? If yes, how long and which roller? And then lastly, when Zimbabwe go bat in their second innings, same procedure will be followed. So that's the first instance after the game has started when rolling to be allowed. The next instance, where the law allows rolling, is before the start of each subsequent day's play. Meaning before the start of day 2, rolling to be allowed. Before the start of day 3, there's rolling to be allowed. Before the start of day 4, rolling to allowed, and day 5. So before the start of each day, subsequent day, is there an exact timing? Yes, the law guides us. The law tells us for this rolling before the start of each subsequent day's play, there's a 20-minute window period. So let's say play is going to start on day 2 at 10 o'clock. So rolling can happen anytime between 9:30 and 9:50. So you can roll at 9:30, you can roll at 9:35, you can roll at 9:40, 9:45. Usually we try to get rolling done as soon as possible, so we'll do it at 9:30. So practically, how will this happen? How will this happen in a test match? Again, our South African Zimbabwe test match. So whoever's batting on the morning of day number 2, let's say Zimbabwe is batting on the morning of day number 2, the 4th umpire will go to the captain of Zimbabwe, ask him, the Cappy, for this morning, do you want rolling? If yes, how long and which roller? Umpy, give me the heavy roller and I want the full 7 minutes. The 4th umpire will relay that message to the curator, and the 4th umpire will then supervise this rolling and make sure they use the big roller for 7 minutes, and it is in the window period of between 9:30 and 9:50. Exactly the same will happen on day number 3, number 4, and number 5 before the start. Are we allowed to water the pitch after the game has started? Absolutely not. Law is clear. Pitch not to be watered at all after the game has started. Are we allowed to remark the creases? Yes, of course. Yeah, the law allows for it. And it usually happens during the interval for your lunch or your tea. Bowlers landing with their front foot on that popping crease, especially ball after ball. Many a times the that popping crease, the paint do disappear. the law allows for those creases to be remarked. Are we allowed to maintain the footholds? Yes, player safety is important. Bowlers, the fast bowlers especially, needs to feel secure where their front foot is landing. That needs to be, stable. The law then allows for footholds to be maintained, to be returved. You'll be amazed, bowlers landing on the same spot over after over, ball after ball, over after over. After a while, there is a hole that appears where that front foot lands. Law allows for that, the curator, to fix, to returve those footholds. Also, again, player safety is important. Bowlers needs to be secure where that front foot lands. If it is slightly damp where that front foot lands, not wet but slightly damp, law allows for a bit of sawdust to be put exactly where that front foot is landing. What about covering the pitch after the game has started? So before the game starts, the curator, he or she and their team, they need to cover the pitch as they see fit. But after the game has started, the law guides us in terms of covering the pitch. So the law tells us before the game, curator, his or her responsibility, and the law allows for full covering if needed. I have a slide later on where we'll see what is meant by full covering if required, but we'll get there in 2-3 slides time. So that's before the game. So now the game has started. So now the law guides us by telling us when it comes to covering the pitch must be covered overnight, non-negotiable. Even if the weather is going so no rain for the next 20 days, pitch must be covered overnight. So practically what will happen, let's say play stops at 5 o'clock on day number 1. The curator will come and see if there's any footholds that needs to be fixed. If not, they will then cover the pitch, and that cover will stay on throughout the night. And in the next slide, we'll see when it needs to be removed. So, but pitch must be covered overnight. And also, pitch needs to be covered when play is suspended due to, especially due to rain. Need to cover the pitch if it's raining. So law guides us in terms of what needs to be covered. Yes, the whole pitch needs to be covered. Yes, the length of the pitch is 20.12 meters, but the law wants at least a minimum of 1.22 meters beyond the bowling crease at each end to be covered. Also, where possible, try to cover the bowler's run-ups as well. So this is in terms of law. This is what law requires the pitch to be covered. In terms of removal of covers, so I mentioned that the pitch needs to be covered overnight. So firstly, you've covered the pitch overnight. Now you get to the next day. There's no exact time. All the law tells us is, please remove the pitch on the morning of the next day, as soon as you can. Or if there's rain around and it's raining the morning of day 2, obviously leave the covers on and only remove it when the rain stops. I mentioned earlier about covering the whole field. This is a test ground in Sri Lanka, where they cover the whole field, not just the pitch, not just the square, but the entire field. Absolutely no problem with this. The law allows for this. This is a test match ground in England, and different countries use different methods of covering the pitch. Here in South Africa, most of the grounds uses covers. This particular ground in England, they use, I'm not exactly sure what this thing is called, but this is what they use to cover the pitch. I've got a video up next that will show you what the curator does when there is a bit of rain around. Have a listen to the video.
This is the scene at Trent Bridge, Nottingham. Second day, game between Nottinghamshire and Durham. As last week, it started to rain. Special cover has been brought into play and brought to the centre to cover the wicket. Although it's daytime, the lights are on, which just assists the batsman's view a little. Players trudge off into the pavilion. Some of the members have already got their umbrellas up. So this is rather a disconsolate scene as this light drizzle has been falling since the start of play has got a little heavier. We all hope that it won't last for very long. So this is that's the county hall with a green roof, the headquarters of the Nottinghamshire County Council, and over there is the world-renowned, as it said on it, Trent Bridge Inn. So it's Michael Parkinson saying cheerio for now.
The last law that I'm covering this evening, law number 11, intervals. So let's have a look at what the laws say about intervals. Firstly, the law classifies what the intervals are, and it's called scheduled intervals. These are intervals that are decided before the game starts. So what are examples of these intervals? Firstly, period between close of play on day one and the start of the next day's play, that is seen in the law as a scheduled interval. I'll use our test match between Zimbabwe and South Africa. So day one will start at 10, close of play will be 5 o'clock. Play will restart on day two at 10 o'clock in the morning. So the period 5 o'clock on day one and 10 o'clock on day two, that is seen as a scheduled interval as per the laws. The 10-minute change of innings interval, scheduled interval. Our interval for meals, which is our lunch and our tea intervals, scheduled intervals as per the law. Interval for drinks, scheduled interval as per the law. And then lastly, any other agreed interval before the game has started, also a scheduled interval. So these intervals and the timings of these intervals are set before the game starts, and they are set by the governing body for cricket for that particular competition. So for Test match cricket, the International Cricket Council, the ICC, They are the governing body of international cricket and test match cricket. So when it comes to the timings of these intervals, they informed us that interval between innings will be 10 minutes. Our interval for lunch will be 40 minutes. Interval for tea will be 20 minutes. And our interval for drinks will be 4 minutes. So we get guided by the governing body for cricket for that particular competition. It might vary from country to country. So I know in South Africa, we apply exactly what in terms of the duration of our intervals in our provincial competition is exactly the same as what it is at international level. So 40 minutes for 4-day cricket in South Africa for our lunch, 20 minutes for our tea, and 4 minutes for our drinks, and 10 minutes for change of innings. This slide just shows you the playing times for test match cricket in South Africa. Why am I showing you these times? I'm going to speak about intervals, and I'm going to use examples to show you how the theory works, and I'm going to use these timings in my examples. So 99% of our test matches in South Africa, this will be the playing times, except for places like Durban, where the sun sets early, and play then, because of the sun setting early, play then starts earlier in Durban. But for the rest of South Africa, these are the playing times for test matches. So I mentioned earlier that the governing body of cricket for that competition, they set out the timings for lunch and tea. Where the law guides us is, they tell us, we leave it up to the governing body to decide how long the intervals should be. All we're telling you is, whatever duration you decide, we want the players and umpires and scorers and everyone to enjoy whatever duration you decided. So I'll use one or two examples. Let's use our lunchtime for our Zimbabwe South Africa test match. So lunch will be at 12 o'clock. So if we get to 12 o'clock, the final ball of the over is bowled. Umpire look at the user what sees is 12 o'clock. Umpire then calls over, time, and lunch. Players and umpires must enjoy a 40-minute lunch break. So the first ball after lunch to be bowled at exactly 12:40. Second example, it's not always that you leave the field at exactly 12 o'clock. There are times where we get to 12 o'clock when we're only midway through the over. We'll see in law number 12 how to deal with it, but I'll just briefly touch on it. So if we get to 12 o'clock and we only halfway through the over, the law wants us to complete that over first before we take lunch. So now let's say we complete the over and the final ball of the over only gets bowled at 12:03. And the umpire then calls overtime in lunch. So now, what time should the first ball after lunch be bowled? And this is where the law guides us. Players and umpires must enjoy a 40-minute lunch break. So if we came off at 12:03, then the first ball after lunch to be bowled at 12:43. Interval between innings, always 10 minutes. What the lawmakers also decided was many years ago, there was no flexibility in terms of our timings of our lunch. If lunch was 12 o'clock, it will always be taken at 12 o'clock, no matter what happens. But the lawmakers realized that they need to bring in flexibility to the timings of especially our lunch, our tea, our drinks, our change of innings interval, our close of play, where we can try to maximize play. So what they then did was they brought in a bit of flexibility in terms of the timings, especially of our intervals. So I'm going to cover how we deal with, and we'll see what flexibility the lawmakers brought into, especially our lunch, our tea, and our drinks, intervals, how you can play around with it to try to get as much play as possible during the day. I'm going to start off with the change of innings interval and what the lawmakers did with the change of innings interval. Firstly, if an innings ends 10 minutes or less to the close of play, it will then be close of play at that time. It will be stumps at that time. Yes, even if we end a few minutes earlier, we won't start a few minutes earlier the next day. Okay, that's the theory. Let me give you an example of how the theory works. So day one of our South Africa Zimbabwe test match, play starts at 10 o'clock and close of plays at 5 o'clock. At 16:52, South Africa is dismissed in their first innings. So now what happens next? So we're now 16:52. We know close of plays at 5 o'clock. So it's now 8 minutes to go till the close of play. And this is where we need to activate this particular clause that tells us if an innings ends 10 minutes or less to the close of play, it will be close of play. So in our example, it was 8 minutes to go to the close of play. 16:52 is 8 minutes to go. So it will now be close of play for day one. Yes, I know we ended 8 minutes earlier, but the law tells us we won't start 8 minutes early on day two to make up this 8 minutes that we lost. Next bit of flexibility that the lawmakers brought into the change of innings interval, where they were to try to maximize play. And here they tell us that if a captain declares an innings or forfeits an innings during either an interruption or a scheduled interval of more than 10 minutes, what we then need to do is we can then incorporate the change of innings interval into our scheduled interval or our interruption. That's the theory. Let me give you an example to show you how the theory works. Let's use lunchtime as an example. Let's say the day two, we get to 12 o'clock. Zimbabwe is batting, and they're currently on 610 for the loss of 2 wickets. Umpire at 12 o'clock calls over, time, and lunch. First ball after lunch needs to be bowled at 12:40, 40 minutes later. So everyone's now off the field enjoying a lunch break. At 12:20, the Zimbabwean captain comes knock on the umpire's door. Umpies, I am declaring. What will now happen is umpires now need to go inform the South African captain that Zimbabwe declared, and South Africa needs to come out to bat after lunch. So we receive this as umpires, the information at 12:20. So now there'll be a change of innings, and we know a change of innings is 10 minutes, but we will now incorporate this 10-minute change of innings into our lunchtime. It's only 12:20 now. First ball after lunch needs to be bowled at 12:40. So we incorporate the 10-minute change of innings into our lunch, and South Africa can go bat at 12:40, and we'll make sure that the first ball to the South African openers gets bowled at 12:40. And while this happens, the fourth umpire will then ask the South African captain, do you want rolling? If yes, which roller, and then also how long? And this will all happen during the interval. So we're saving time by incorporating the 10-minute change of innings into our lunch interval. There is a but, and this but is, if there's less than 10 minutes remaining of the interruption or interval, and then the captain declares, the next innings then to only start 10 minutes after this declaration. Okay, that's the theory. Let me give you an example to show you how the theory works. I'll use exactly the same example. Zimbabwe is batting, day two, lunchtime, 610 for 4 when we get to lunch. Umpire at 12 o'clock calls overtime and lunch. Since we took lunch at 12 o'clock, first ball after lunch needs to be bowled at 12:40. At 12:35, the Zimbabwean captain comes knocking on the umpire's door saying, "Umpies, I'm declaring." So now what happens? So remember, the first ball needs to be bowled at 12:40. But now we only heard the declaration from the captain of Zimbabwe at 12:35. So now, to be fair on South Africa, because we need to give the openers, time to get ready. Also, rolling needs to now to happen, because when there's a change of innings, the now batting captain, the law tells us captain can have rolling if they want. So now 12:35 the declaration happened. It's not fair to tell the South African captain your openers needs to be ready at 12:40. So now what the law says is, if there's less than 10 minutes remaining to of the interval, we need to then give 10 minutes before the first ball needs to be bowled. So in my example, 12:35 we heard about the declaration. We will now give South Africa 10 minutes to get ready and for the rolling to, if the captain wants to take place. So the first ball to the South African openers to be bowled at 12:45. So there will be a 10-minute change of innings from 12:35 till 12:45. Before I get to the flexibility that the lawmakers brought into our lunch, our tea, and our drinks intervals, the lawmakers created this particular clause where they give the two umpires and the two captains the power to change the time of the lunch or the tea interval if play is lost due to adverse conditions of ground weather light. Let's say it rains. The two captains and the two umpires have the power to play around with their lunch or their tea interval. So it's like, a catch-all clause. They don't give us specifics. They just tell us, cappies and umpires, you have the power to change your lunch and your tea intervals at any time as you see fit, as long as the two umpires and both captains, they all need to agree to change your lunch and your tea intervals. So this is like a catch-all clause, but it must be through you lose time through adverse conditions like rain as an example. But we're now going to go into specific instances where the law tells us, when it comes to our lunch interval, if the following happens, you will take an early lunch. No need for captains to agree. I know in the previous clause 11.4, they do give you a power to change your lunch and your tea interval if you lose it through adverse conditions. But what I'm covering now is where the law tells us, if the following things happen, no need for any agreement, you will take an early lunch. And the first instance is, if an innings ends 10 minutes or less to lunch, we will take an early lunch. The change of innings will then be incorporated into our lunch interval. Okay, that's the theory. Let me give you an example to show you how this theory works. Let's say we get to let's use day 3 of our test match between South Africa and Zimbabwe. South Africa gets dismissed in their first innings on day 3 at 11:53. What happens next? And this is where this clause needs to be activated, where the law tells us if an innings ends 10 minutes or less to lunch, we will take an early lunch. And this, in my example, South Africa's innings ended 7 minutes to go to lunch. At 11:53, the innings ended. So because it ended 10 minutes or less to lunch, we activate this clause, and no need to go to captains and ask them, do you agree that the law tell us if this happens? We activate this clause and we'll take an early lunch. But it must be 10 minutes or less. So now we took lunch at 11:53. So when must the first ball after lunch be bowled? Yes, players needs to enjoy a 40-minute lunch. So if we took an early lunch at 11:53, that first ball after lunch to the Zimbabwean openers needs to be bowled at 12:33. And we will then include or incorporate the 10-minute change of innings into our lunch interval. More flexibility that the lawmakers brought into our lunch interval. And here is when a stoppage occurs through adverse conditions, ground weather or light, and players needs to leave the field 10 minutes or less to go to lunch. Here the law tell us we will take lunch immediately. I'll give you an example to illustrate how the theory works. Let's use day 2 lunchtime. Zimbabwe is batting at the time. At 11:55 it starts to rain. So what happens next? So here the law tell us because it's less 10 minutes or less to go to lunch. In our example, it's 5 minutes to go to lunch, and this is obviously less than 10 minutes to go to lunch. We will take lunch immediately. So we will take lunch at 11:55. Lunch to be 40 minutes, and if weather conditions permit, lunch first ball after lunch to be bowled at 12:35, 40 minutes later. So in terms of lunchtime, these are the flexibilities that the lawmakers brought into our lunch interval. And if these two things happen, and innings change 10 minutes or less to lunch, we'll take lunch immediately. Or if it rains 10 minutes or less to lunch, we'll also take lunch immediately. So that's the flexibility that the lawmakers brought into our lunch interval. Let's have a look at what flexibility was given to our tea interval. Firstly, if an innings ends 30 minutes or less to tea, we will take tea immediately. We will then incorporate or include the 10-minute change of innings into our tea interval. Okay, that's the theory. Let me give you an example how the theory works. So let's say day number 1, tea is at 14:40. At 14:20, South Africa is dismissed in their first innings. 14:20. What happens next? This is where we activate this particular clause, 11.6.1, which tells us if an innings ends 30 minutes or less to tea, we'll take an early tea. In my example, with tea being 14:40 and South Africa being dismissed at 14:20, and this is 20 minutes to go to tea, so this is 30 minutes or less to tea, we will take tea at 14:20. We know tea is 20 minutes, so tea will be from 14:20 till 14:40, first ball to Zimbabwe to be bowled at 14:40. The 10-minute change of innings will be included or incorporated into our tea interval. That's the first flexibility that the lawmakers brought when it comes to our tea interval. Second bit of flexibility when it comes to our tea interval. When we get to 30 minutes to go to tea, and there's already an interval between innings in progress, the law tells us play to restart at the end of the 10-minute interval. Okay, that's the theory. Let me give an example to show you how the theory works. Again, our Zimbabwe South Africa test match. Let's say we're on day number 2. We know T is at 14:40. At 14:05, Zimbabwe, who's batting at the time, is dismissed. So what happens next? Can we take an early tea at 14:05? Can we activate clause 11.6.1? No, we can't. Why? It is 35 minutes to go till tea. And law tell us in point 1, innings needs to end 30 minutes or less for you to activate this clause to take an early tea. So in my example, this example, it is 35 minutes, 14:05, Zimbabwe was dismissed. 35 to go till tea. So what will now happen? We can't take an early tea, so now there'll be a 10-minute change of innings. So from 14:05 till 14:15 will be the 10-minute change of innings. South Africa's openers will face the first ball in their innings at 14:15. And with T being at 14:40. So we will play from 14:15 till 14:40 and take T at normal time. That is point 2. Let's look at more flexibility that the lawmakers brought into our T interval. If due to adverse conditions, ground weather, light, and let's use the rain as an example, 30 minutes or less, it rains 30 minutes or less to T, we'll take an early T. That's the theory. Let me use an example to illustrate the theory. 14:40 is our T interval. Let's say South Africa is busy batting on the afternoon of day 2. At 14:25, it starts to rain. What happens next? This is where we can activate this clause 11.6.3 that tells us if we need to leave the field due to adverse conditions, and in my example it was a rain, and we left the field at 14:25. It is 15 minutes to go till T. We can activate this clause because this is 30 minutes or less till T. So we can take an early T at 14:25. So we'll take T at 14:25. T is 20 minutes. So first ball after T, if conditions permit, to be bowled at 14:45. And lastly, flexibility when it comes to our T interval. If there is a stoppage already in progress when we get to 30 minutes before T, then they refer us to clause 11.4. And what does 11.4 tell us? 11.4 is it's that catch-all clause that gives umpires and captains the power, if they agree, to change their lunch or tea at any time. So just an example to illustrate this. At 14:40 is our tea. It starts raining at 2 o'clock and players leave the field. Can we take an early tea? It's 40 minutes to go to tea, so we can't activate this clause because this clause 11.6.3 once if it rains 30 minutes or less to tea, then we can activate this clause. But in this example that I'm now using, it is 40 minutes to go till tea. So now the law tells us we need to apply 11.4, and 11.4 is we the umpires will go to the two captains. Cappies, it is 40 minutes to go till tea. Do you want to take an early tea? If yes, we can then take tea at 2 o'clock, and tea will be from 2 till 1400 hours till 14:20. But I need both of you to agree. If one of you say, no, I don't want to take an early tea, we will then take tea at normal time, which is 14:40. More flexibility that the lawmakers brought into our lunch and our tea interval. And this flexibility was added to the law to maximize play, to try to get as much cricket in any day as possible. So this is when a side is 9 wickets down at either your lunch or your tea interval. But the crucial thing is the side must be 9 wickets down when we get to our lunch or our tea interval. So the lawmakers, over the years, and there's lots of stats to back it up, and no disrespect to the number 10 and 11 batters out there, but those two batters usually they don't occupy the crease for so long. Lots of stats to back that up. So what the lawmakers decided was, knowing that your number 10 and your number 11 don't occupy the crease for that long, let's give the fielding side the opportunity to see if they can take that 10th wicket in a maximum of 30 minutes. So they get a max of 30 minutes to see if they can take that 10th wicket. If they can, we can then take lunch or tea immediately. If they can't take it in within a max of 30 minutes, we then must take lunch after 30 minutes. Okay, that's the theory. Let me give you an example to illustrate how the theory works. Let's say we get to day 2, and I'm going to use lunch as an example, but this clause applies to lunch and tea interval. You'll apply the same principle. But let me use lunch as an example. Day 2, South Africa is batting at the time, and South Africa is at lunchtime, let's say the final ball of the over is bowled, it's the umpire looks at the watch and the umpire sees it's 12 o'clock when that final ball is bowled, and South Africa is 250 for 9. So what happens next? Do we take lunch at 12 o'clock? No, we will not take lunch at 12 o'clock. Why? Because this particular law tells us we should not take lunch at 12 o'clock. And the reason is South Africa's 9 wickets down. The side must be 9 down. If South Africa was 8 wickets down, we would have taken lunch at 12 o'clock. But because South Africa is 9 wickets down, we will play an extra max of 30 minutes. We will give Zimbabwe a max of 30 minutes to see if they can take the 10th South African wicket within that 30 minutes. So with lunch being at, should have been at 12 o'clock. So we give Zimbabwe till 12:30 to see if they can take that South African 10th South African wicket. If they can take that 10th South African wicket, let's for argument's sake, scenario 1, they take the 10th wicket at 12:10. Took them 10 minutes to get that final wicket. So the wicket was taken at 12:10. So now what the law tells us is, so at 12:10, we will take lunch. Lunch will be our normal duration of 40 minutes. So what time must the first ball after lunch be bowled to the Zimbabwean openers? At 12:50, 40 minutes later. So that's scenario 1. South Africa managed to take the 10th Zimbabwean wicket within that 30 minutes. Scenario 2, let's say South Africa is not able to take that 10th Zimbabwean wicket within that 30 minutes. So now we get to 12:30. Umpires look at their watches. They see it is 12:30. Final ball of the over is bowled. What will now happen is the bowlers and umpire will call over, time, and lunch. The law only allows for a max of 30 minutes to the fielding side to see if they can take the wicket. If they cannot take it in 30 minutes, we will then take lunch. So lunch was taken at 12:30. First ball after lunch to be bowled at 13:10. And lastly, when it comes to the flexibility that the lawmakers brought into our intervals, and here in specific the drinks interval. Firstly, our law guides us by telling us your drinks not to be longer than 5 minutes. In test match cricket, drinks is 4 minutes as per the playing condition. All law say it shouldn't be more than 5 minutes. So now, what flexibility did they bring into our drinks interval to try to maximize play, to save a bit of time? If a wicket falls within 5 minutes to drinks, so either wicket falls or a batter retires within 5 minutes to drinks, we will take drinks immediately. That's the theory. Let me give you 1 or 2 examples to show you how the theory works. Drinks is, let's say, day 1 at 11 o'clock. Let's say Zimbabwe is busy batting. Drinks at 11 o'clock. At 10:57, South Africa takes the first Zimbabwean wicket. So this wicket fell at 10:57. And remember, drinks is supposed to be taken at 11 o'clock. So what do we do now? Do we allow the number 3 batter to come in and face the ball and we take drinks at 11 o'clock? No, here the law tells us. If a wicket falls within 5 minutes to drinks, we will take drinks. So in this example, the wicket fell at 10:57, 3 minutes to drinks, and this is within the 5 minutes. We will take drinks at 10:57. Drinks will be 4 minutes, so from 10:57 till 11:01 will be drinks. First ball after drinks will be bowled at 11:01. Another example, same test match, South Africa, Zimbabwe, morning of day 1, Zimbabwe batting. South Africa takes the first Zimbabwean wicket at 10:54. What happens next? Do we take an early drinks? Don't we take an early drinks? No, we don't take an early drinks. Why? Because we can only activate 11.8.2, this clause, if a wicket falls within 5 minutes. In my second example, the wicket fell at 10:54, which is 6 minutes to go to drinks. So in this example, because it's 6 minutes to drinks, the number 3 batter needs to come out and face the next delivery. Let's say the wicket was taken on the third ball of the over. The number 3 batter needs to come face the fourth delivery, and we'll take drinks at normal time, which is 11 o'clock. And lastly, Tom, before I hand back over to you, drinks not to be taken in the last hour. And also, if we decide to change our timings of our lunch and especially our tea intervals or lunch intervals, please inform the scorers of any of these agreement or changes to our lunch or our tea intervals. Tom, thank you so much. Handing back over to you.
Thank you so much, Abdullah. I never knew that lunch or tea breaks could be so complicated, but it makes a lot of sense when you explain it the way you do. Now we're going to go into the chat box to see what questions have been posed while we've been presenting. I see a lot of you added your email addresses to the chat box. What I did is I added the Google form registration link. Please, ladies and gents, the easiest way to get onto the mailing list for the course is to complete the registration form. It takes 2 to 3 minutes, and that way you know you will always get the lecture reminder emails, the course material emails, and the exam logistics emails, and the payment details emails. It's all in one email. So don't be shocked or looking for 5 or 10 different emails. Just scroll down all the way through every email that I sent. It has all the course material and logistics detailed in it. So first question I've come across is from Kraspos. Abdullah, why do we roll a pitch? What is the science behind rolling the pitch? We've learned tonight that it's 7 minutes maximum that a pitch can be rolled for, but what does it actually do? Does anybody know, or does everybody just think they know, but nobody really knows?
Yes, Tom, in my experience, every cricketer think they know the pitch. They think they know the science, of the pitch. I mean, I was an opener in my day, and I used to love the roller. In my mind, the roller should always be used, and the heaviest roller to be used at all time. Because my mind said that pitch needs to be rolled flat. I need to, I want that pitch as flat as possible so that I can score as many runs as possible. So yes, the law allows for the rolling of the pitch. We try to keep condition of the pitch, the same over like a test match over the 5 days. The morning of when let's say South Africa that won the toss batting first, they get a nice clean, fresh pitch, no debris anywhere, no spikes marks, nice, looks nice, and flat deck. So lawmakers decided that you want to try to keep that pitch the same over the 5 days. I know the pitch deteriorates over the 5 days, but that's normal or natural wear and tear over the 5 days. But we're going to try to keep it the same. We're going to try to be fair to both sides. So hence allowing rolling at certain times, which I've covered, just to be fair to both sides, over the 5 days. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Tula. Yeah, I've had a lot of theories over the years, and for me, I think all it does is it compacts the pitch. So obviously, the sun will, as it heats up, the pitch will expand the pitch, and all the roller does is when it rolls over it, it contracts or compacts the pitch to bring the dust particles, the soil back together. But of course, if the pitch is cracking up, then sometimes it can just open those cracks up even more. So that's why there's always a debate as to whether to use the heavy roller or the light roller or the medium roller. And I think maybe, Abdullah, sometime in maybe one of our next courses, we should invite a grounds person to talk about the pitch, because it is a science that not a lot of people know. And clearly there's some need or want to know a little bit more about what the roller does to a pitch. Renee Jupp says that pitch cover looks like it's inflated. It's actually a dome, and it is inflated, isn't it, Abdullah? They pump it up, and then it is on wheels, and it moves a lot easier than 10 or 12 or 15 people having to pull good old-fashioned plastic or rubber covers over the ground. Next question is from Mkuseli. If bales fall, are players allowed to pick them and put them back on top of the stumps? Or is it a job for the umpires to put the bales back on top of the stumps? Dula?
So while the ball is still in play, yes, players and only players are allowed to put one or both bales back on to try to put the wicket down. So umpires not to put bales on if the ball is still in play. Once the ball is dead, yes, umpires can then put the bales back on. But while in play, only players, the law only allows for players to put those bales back on if they want to, put the stumps down. But no, umpires, we are not allowed to put it while still in play. We can only put it back once the ball is dead. Yes, we pick it up and put it back on. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Dula. Ronaldo Reddy asks, in relation to the example that you gave of a declaration towards the end of a lunch break, in an interval, is there a restriction as to when a batting captain can declare? Can a batting captain declare at 12:39 when lunch is supposed to end at 12:40? And must play resume at 12:49 if a captain declares at 12:39?
So, Tom, I'm going to answer this question firstly as per the law, and then secondly, practically. First, as per the law, yes, captain can declare an innings at any time. So if a captain comes to you at 12:39 and first ball supposed to be bowled at 12:40, you need to, then the law tells us you now must have a 10-minute change of innings. To be fair to the now batting side, openers needs to get ready, and also the batting captain has the option to roll and can choose any roller and then roll for a max of 7 minutes. So yes, technically there will be a change of innings because we were informed at 12:39. So the first ball to the batting team will be bowled at 12:49. So yeah, that's the theory. So that's what the law says. How we'll handle this, but practically, how this will actually happen is, so I'll use our test match as an example. So let's say we took lunch at 12 o'clock, and we know the first ball after lunch needs to be bowled at 12:40. So what the umpires do is, to make sure that the first ball gets bowled at 12:40, we will take the field at 12:35. The umpires will walk onto the field at 12:35, followed by the fielding side, followed by the batters. And by doing this, we will ensure that the first ball gets bowled at 12:40. So why I'm mentioning this is it's practically this example of the captain declaring at 12:39 it's not possible to happen because umpires do take the field 5 minutes before the break, before the restart after the interval. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Tula. Don Bangura from Sierra Leone, a good friend of mine from an ICC umpire tutors course last year, May, in Ghana. He asks, in relation to the intervals, are these laws applicable to test cricket only? Abdullah, you've mentioned lunch for 40 minutes, you've mentioned tea for 20 minutes, and how we can move those intervals based on the laws of cricket. So are these laws applicable to one-day internationals? Are they applicable to T20 internationals?
So no, Tom, they're only applicable to a more day cricket, like Test match cricket as an example, which spans over 5 days. In South Africa, we play our first class cricket over 4 days. And the under 23 sides play their first class cricket or more day cricket over 3 days. So in those type of formats, you'll find your lunch interval and your tea intervals. In 50 over or T20 cricket, you won't find lunch or tea because how the format is, there'll be the side one will go bat in their first innings. Let's say it's a 50 over game. So let's say Zimbabwe will go bat. They won the toss, batting first. They'll face their 50 overs. Then there'll be a 30-minute interval. And then after the interval, South Africa will go bat their 50 overs.
50 overs.
And there are playing conditions that governs how to deal with intervals in 20 over cricket or 50 over cricket. But for the purposes of this course, it's covering the laws of cricket, and it's applicable in more day cricket like your test matches that spans over 5 days, or provincial cricket in South Africa that spans over 4 days. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Tula. Nkuseli, adding to that question, asks if the time frames are the same in all formats. Nkuseli, you will notice in the laws of cricket, there are actually no time frames given. The 40 minutes for lunch is a playing condition for test match cricket. The 20 minutes for tea is a playing condition for test match cricket and 4-day cricket around the world. So playing conditions are separate and are added to the laws of cricket. They override the laws of cricket, and they are different for every format of the game. So more day cricket has got 40-minute lunch breaks, 20-minute tea breaks. T20 international matches have a maximum of a 20-minute innings between interval between innings. After one team has batted, it's 20 minutes interval until the next team starts batting. Sometimes if the first innings overruns because of a slow over rate or because of a lot of interruptions and maybe a lot of reviews, then the interval between innings for a T20 international match can be reduced to 15 minutes or even down to 10 minutes. So the timings, remember, with one-day internationals, you can also have a day match starting at 10 a.m. or you can have a day-night game starting at 2 p.m. So the timings of cricket matches are all dependent on the playing conditions for that particular match or tournament. I hope that answers your question, Nkuseli. Wanda Ngweshe says, please kindly elaborate and or clarify the difference between declaring and forfeiting. And Kwanda, what I'm going to do for you is, you probably were not with us for yesterday's lecture where Abdullah spoke about, apologies, we're still getting to that in this particular course. It is in Law 14 and Law 15, declaration and forfeiture, Law 15 to be precise. So, Kwanda, please join us again next week, Tuesday, where we will be going through Laws 14 and 15, and we will tell you exactly what it is when a batting side declares its innings and what it is when a captain forfeits an innings. Okay, a reminder to all of you, please, to ask questions related to the content that we are presenting at each lecture. Otherwise, we might go on for the whole night, every lecture. Of course, the 7th lecture, we are all welcome to ask any questions about cricket and cricket umpiring that we maybe haven't covered throughout the 6 first lectures. Okay. Next question is from Ashok Sarkar. In a test match, time lost on the 2nd day and the 3rd day for rain, bad light, as an umpire, can we extend time in day 4 or day 5? Abdullah, please touch on the playing conditions of test match cricket in terms of how we make up time that is lost on a day.
So yes, Ashok, it's a playing conditions that's part of test match cricket, where the playing condition, it's not a law, the playing condition allows us as umpires to make up a maximum of 60 minutes on each day. So we can extend the cutoff time by 60 minutes. So if in our test match, if the cutoff time or on day 1 is, let's say, 5 o'clock, and we lost time due to inclement weather, we can play up until 6 o'clock. We've got 60 minutes at our disposal that we can extend the time on any day, and we can make up time if we lost it due to ground weather or light. And your example, I think you used rain and bad light. We've got 60 minutes per day that we can utilize, and yes, we can extend time up to a max of 60 minutes. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Tula. Next question is from AJ Alcasta. Sorry, Ntwari asked a question before. What is the maximum time for innings breaks in limited overs games? That depends completely on the playing conditions of the match or the competition. So, Ntwari, we are learning the laws of cricket, but before your first match, you need to ask the tournament director or the person who has appointed you to the particular match, what are the playing conditions? How long will the innings break be for that particular limited overs game? Okay, it's not specified in law. AJ Alcasta says, when playing time is limited in some games, can an umpire communicate to both the bowler and the batter to stand on the offside of a left and right hand batting combination? So AJ, Abdullah answered this question last night about how we as umpires can improve or assist with the pace of play, especially when a left-handed batter is batting with a right-handed batter. So please, the recording has been posted on our YouTube channel, and I will post the link to that recording on this chat box while Abdullah answers the next question, so you can scroll to it and listen to that answer. But in short, yes, an umpire is allowed to move from the leg side to the offside as and when they see fit. That is all the questions and comments in the chat box. I'm now moving to the meeting room and I see a hand up. Sivengoi. I'm going to first have to
Tom,
activate.
before you deactivate you can deactivate the mics and cameras. I received a message from one of our Div 1 first class umpires, Mazizi Kampu. He said to me that the current curator of the Wanderers Test Ground here in South Africa is doing the level 1 course, Brendan Frost. So we have Frosty sitting here. So we have a current test ground curator here.
Is this the Brandon in the meeting room that I see with his microphone unmuted?
That's him. So we've seen that we've got a test match curator. Yes, we might as well as ask him one or two of the curator of the pitch questions. Over to you, Tom.
Well, there we go. We've got famous people all the time on our lectures, Abdullah. We are not the famous ones. We merely interview the famous ones. Good evening, Frosty. How are you?
Good and you guys.
Very well. Good to see you. Are you enjoying a relaxed off season or are you busy preparing for next year's World Cup already?
There is no off time for curators. We're actually working now for the last 2 years for the World Cup. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So we had a question earlier in the chat box from one of the candidates. They want to know, what is the science behind rolling of the pitch? What does it actually do to the pitch? Does it compact it? Does it break up the cracks? When should you use a heavy roller? When should you use a light roller? When should you use a medium roller? When should you not use a roller? Please enlighten us.
That's quite a good question also. To prepare a wicket, you need a roller just to compact it. That is number one of cricket. If you don't have a compaction on your pitches, your cricket standard won't be as high. So that's one. The reason why we compact it, it is to get your pace and bounce. The recovery of the pitch will be better also, because if it's not prepared, you're going to actually take divots out. It's the same as if you play golf. When you hit the ball, you make a divot. That takes up to 6 to 8 months of recovering. That's why we compact the soil. So the reason for the different rollers, there is still a debate on that. Heavy roller, some oaks like doing heavy rollers, some oaks don't like it. It depends on the wicket. It's all depends on weather conditions, how the pitch is from the start. Is it soft? Is it if it's too dry, you won't be putting a big roller on, because then you crumble it up. Some oaks reason go, let's do it, because if you play a 4-day game or a test match, like a double innings, if I bat first and I see it's a dry wicket and the other captain decides to take a heavy roller, that gives me the opportunity to get more on the pitch later on, because then it's going to crumble up. So then that's when the spinners are coming in. The light roller, for me, it's pointless. I know all the grounds is different. So for me, it's pointless because it's so light. You actually just press all the spike marks and it looks better. So most of the time, also, most of the players will be, it's how it looks and not how it plays. If it looks good, they think it's going to play better. So that's my opinion. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks for that enlightenment, Frosty.
No problem.
Do you have some time for us to open the floor up for questions from the candidates?
No issues.
Okay, so Sive and Rifat, I see you've got your hands up. If you've got your hands up for questions not related to the pitch, please, I'll ask you to put your hands down. And then we're going to just take the next 3 questions directed at Brandon Frost, who is the groundsman at the DP World Wanderers, which is a test pitch in South Africa. I want to ask Frosty, what is the best wicket you've prepared for the best game that has taken place on one of your pitches over the years, please?
Well, I'm at the Wanderers now for about 4 years, and I must say my first game I prepared there, that was a domestic final. We played Lions against the Western Province, where my team, the Lions, won the cup that day. They actually scored over 350. And we bowled out the Western Province for about 280 to win the trophy. So far, that's one of my best ones. And then second will be the test match against West Indies, where Maharaj got a couple of wickets and got injured. And we still won that test match.
Fantastic. An iconic ground with so many memorable matches. I'm sure those will remain long in your memory for those reasons that you've given us.
Yeah.
So
thanks.
Frosty, thank you so much for joining us. It looks like people are scared of a groundsman because all of a sudden the hands went down, and I guess they weren't prepared for questions, and maybe it's because we are all rather uneducated about the preparation and the maintenance of a pitch. I've always been interested. How long does it take to prepare a pitch, especially for a 5-day test match? Because surely it can't be a 2-minute job at the day before a test match. How long in advance do you have to start preparing for a test match?
We actually worked out now. We got 2 test matches this year. We actually worked out already which pitches we're going to use, and that is now about 6 months before any cricket has been played yet.
Yeah.
So we nominated 2 pitches already. The final prep will be about 10 days before the test match.
Okay.
We'll start. But we working constantly on it for the last 6 months, like I said. And it's not just cut, roll, and then you play. It's more filling out, getting your moisture proper, decent. We got some new tools to play with also to see the moisture in the pitches before we even start the rolling. So we're still playing around with that. Is it good if it's 60%? Is it good as 40%? We don't know yet. It depends on the conditions also. And then the big factor is also what does your team need to play? Because we're playing against Bangladesh and we're playing England in December.
Yeah.
So you don't want a turning wicket for Bangladesh, and you don't want a seamer wicket for England.
Yeah.
So that's also we play a big role in that, and that's where it comes to. You need to know your team. You need to know what the other team is bringing also to the test matches.
Sure.
So you can't just say, okay, let's see, it's going to be a green wicket, but you don't have seamers.
True. Fascinating insights. Thanks, Frosty.
Thanks a lot.
Last question from Mazizi, one of our fellow national first-class panel umpires. Tell us about the drop-in pitches that have been put into the Wanderers in preparation for the ICC ODI World Cup in South Africa in 2027. How long were you preparing those for? And then how long does it take to put it in? And then does it play differently to the strip next door that has been in the square for the last however many years?
Well, it's a new thing for us also. What we done, we played last season, Titans and Lions. We played the first game on it. It took me about 6 to 7 days to prepare that one. It is actually easier to prepare, and it doesn't play that much different than all the other pitches. There is pace and bounce. There is it's consistent. So I think it's good. It's one for the future. It is just you're getting play much more cricket in the middle of the square than on the side ones,
Right.
because that's our biggest issue. With all the amount of cricket we got, and it's televised games and it's test matches and ODIs and T20s, and you need to play all of them in the middle. The moving side, there is still some stuff coming up. They're busy now in all the other provinces also. Yeah. It took a little bit longer because it is the first time. So it gets better. I think, well, and then next move will be like in a one or 2 day period where you can move it from the boundary to the middle. So there is a lot of work to be done still on that, but the engineers are busy with it.
Brilliant. We've got a hand up, Frosty. Pulkit, please unmute your microphone and ask your question to Brandon Frost.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, sir. Sir, I'm from India, and here in India, most pitches, the recently World Cup was held, and there are high-scoring pitches like flat tracks in India. You could see more than 250 runs scored almost in the final of the World Cup, T20 World Cup as well. And we won it. And yes, in that, I would like to know, now we have ODI World Cup in South Africa, in your country. So how differently the pitches or tracks you prepare there to have a balance of both, for the batsman and the bowlers, because in India it favors batsmen mostly, and the ball comes onto the bat. There are flat tracks, not much in the pitch for the bowlers. So how differently, because I was thinking that India should also prepare and work on those pitches to get better on playing both of the tracks, not only favoring the batsman, but to give opportunities for both the bowlers and the batsmen. So what different pitches, how different you work on those pitches to make a balance for the both?
Well, that's a good question. Unfortunately, it's different type of clays, different conditions. We also got different areas here. It's like when you come to Joburg, you get quick and bouncy wickets. When you go to Durban, you get almost a subcontinent area. So there's different ways, but it's difficult to say. You need to leave more grass on. You need to have more moisture. It depends on your clay content, your grass cover. I know in India and IPL and all that, they make it nice and flat for the batters. I heard a lot of stories from that side of, why can't we prepare it like this? Don't you need clay from India? It actually, it's conditions of your area. What depends on what your clay is. So those wickets are good for India, but if you prepare one like that this side, you might be having two pace up and down. So it depends on your conditions at your stadiums.
Fantastic.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much, Frosty. It's been a brilliant surprise to have you on. And I'm glad you want to learn a little bit about umpiring, or you just wanting to brush up on your laws of cricket.
Got a level 1.
Okay. Well, we're always looking for more umpires. So when your back gets too sore from all the heavy lifting, you know where to go.
Same with side. We need groundsmen also.
Great stuff,
Thanks a lot,
Frosty.
guys. Then enjoy your next assignment.
Yeah, we'll see you in the season. Definitely. Looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, fantastic. Brandon
Guys.
Frost, the head groundsman at the Wanderers, which is one of South Africa's most famous cricket grounds, where the 438 game was played, and still to this day, probably the most talked about one-day international match in the history of ODIs. Sive, thank you for your patience. Please unmute your microphone and you can ask a normal umpiring question.
How's it, Tom?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Can you hear me? How's it, Abdullah? And how's it, everyone else? 2 questions, please, from my side. One is under Law 8, dispensing of the bells, okay? And then let's say Mother Nature's playing its course like on the day, all right? And then the bells you can't keep basically on the wickets and they keep falling down, and then you decide that you're taking those bells down, okay? Say the weather changes somehow when the second team, and before we get there, the both captains agree that let's take the bells off, okay? So now we're playing with the bells off. Say when the first team's innings is on, and then on the change of innings on the other side, now the weather is more controllable, so which means that it's a normal bells on type of thing. Now, is that not to the disadvantage of the second team batting, right? Whereas on the other side, I mean, the variation of the ball, I mean, all factors come into play. So there was a pearl of a ball, and then it just went where the bell would have been, say, for instance. And then now all of a sudden now on the second innings, when the second team is playing and then the bells are back on, I know it's margins, right? But is that not to the disadvantage of the second team? That's my first question. Can I go with my second one as well?
Let's answer that one first, Sive.
Okay, sure.
Dula,
No problem.
you want to take us through that? Can the captains decide they're not going to play with bails on for the rest of the match to have it even for both sides?
So, Sive, we actually get guided by the law on this. The law is quite explicit by telling us if, due to the windy conditions, you are the law gives you, the umpires, the power as not to waste so much time with bells continuously falling off. That yes, you can remove the bells. It is you, the umpires, to decide whether you're going to remove the bells or not. Captains, players, coaches have no input. So you just need to make that call based on the conditions, wanting to save time. Bales keeps on falling off. Okay, we're going to take it off, put it in our pockets, and this is also where the law comes in. So yes, you're allowed to take it off, and you need to take it off both sides. But then the law goes further, saying that if later conditions do improve, the wind do die down, you must then put the bails back on. And again, it's for you, the umpires, to decide whether you're going to put the bails back on. Captains, coaches, players have absolutely no input. So the point I'm trying to make is the law is quite clear on this, and we have to follow the law. So law tells us we have to do it. Your point on it, maybe favoring the one side over the other. Yes, the law do changes quite drastically if you do decide to remove the bails. But just playing without bells makes everyone's lives so much more difficult, especially the umpires. So we, the umpires, prefer having having the bells on. It's just one of those things. The law tells us we need to put it back on. If one teams feel we disadvantaged, similarly, a team, the morning of day one, it's overcast, the ball seams around, and the one side gets dismissed for 100 before lunch. After lunch, the sun comes out, and now it's a flat track, and end of the day, the batting side is now 200 for no wicket. Yeah, you might field captain can't complain. Yeah, but when we batted, the sun was, it was overcast. Yeah, it's just the conditions at the time. Yeah, it's just unfortunate. Yeah, it is what it is. But to answer your question, we get guided by the law, and we have to follow the law. And the law tell us if the wind dies down, we have to put it back on. Over, Tom.
Thanks, Dula. Next question, Sive.
Thank you so much for that, Abdullah. Next question, under law 11, intervals. Say now we do have this test match now between South Africa and Zimbabwe, and then now say South Africa batted first, and then they've batted their second, they're batting their second innings, right? And now Zimbabwe's chasing game. Basically, it's in a game chasing type of situation, all right? And it's the last day, for instance, and then they finish, say 10 minutes or less before lunch, right? And then the team batting second are now looking at a couple of factors. It could be rain, it could be anything else, where every minute sort of like counts. And then those 10 minutes before the lunch hour break is vital and crucial to them, regardless of how many runs they're going to score or how many wickets they lose there, right? I know we can activate a clause where we say we're taking lunch 10 minutes before that lunch break, right? So if the team batting last, Zimbabwe is saying, hey guys, we need as many runs as we can they utilize those remaining minutes, even if we can still activate that clause to say we're taking the teams off for lunch and take that 40-minute break? Can Zimbabwe say we will use whatever minutes there are before lunch and then still come back and then chase the total? I don't know if you're hearing me where I'm going with this. Yeah.
So Sive, remember Abdullah took us through the conditions in which early lunch can be taken. So it's not just a decision based on the state of the match where umpires can say, oh, you know what, we're hungry now, let's take lunch 10 minutes before 12 instead of 12. So a innings needs to end with 10 minutes or less remaining for lunch to be taken. Or if the players have to leave the field due to adverse ground weather or light conditions, 10 minutes or less before the lunch interval, then lunch will be taken immediately. If there has been adverse weather conditions in that day, then the two captains together with the two umpires can decide to have an early lunch. You will not take an early lunch just because somebody feels like it. There has to have been something in the laws that allows for an early lunch. So I'm not sure if you are talking about a tactic from either side to try and take an early lunch and the other side doesn't want to take an early lunch. It's not tactic related at all. It cannot be tactic related. It's ground weather or light, or whether an innings ends with 10 minutes or less before the scheduled lunch break, then lunch will be taken. It's not optional. It is mandatory as per the intervals law. I hope that answers your question, Sive.
I think the word mandatory clears it up. Thank you very much.
Cool. You're welcome. I do not see any more questions or comments in the chat box. I do not see any more hands raised in the meeting room. So I'd like to thank everybody for the attendance and the interaction today. This lecture has been recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. South African time. We will reconvene for lecture number 3 next week, Tuesday, same time, same place, same Microsoft Teams meeting link. Have a great week ahead. We will see you next week. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you again for lecture number 3. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.